Hello, and welcome back to Dark Roast. Today's story is one that is not uncommon to true crime enthusiasts, but for those of you who don't know, I will be going over the story of the Tylenol murder. Odds are is that you've had to take that plastic film off a new medication that you've gotten from the store. And then once you've taken that plastic off, you had to open that child-proof or sometimes even adult-proof top off. And then beneath that, there's also the foil. And sometimes your nail doesn't want to take that off, or sometimes it doesn't come off evenly. Now, hopefully, once you get through all of these and you're finally getting ready to take that medication, you can feel good and reassured that that medication you're about to take is safe. But unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case. Early in the morning of September 29th, 1982, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman woke up with a sore throat and a runny nose. She told her parents about her symptoms, and they gave her one extra-strength Tylenol capsule. Mary, unfortunately, would be dead by 7 a.m. Within a week, her death would panic the entire nation, and months later, it would change the way we purchase and consume over-the-counter medications. That same day, a 27-year-old postal worker named Adam Jonas of Arlington Heights, Illinois, died of what was initially thought to be a massive heart attack. His brother and sister-in-law, Stanley, 25, and Teresa, 19, rushed to his home to console their loved ones. Both experienced throbbing headaches, which is not an uncommon response to a death in the family, and each took a Tylenol extra-strength capsule or two from the same bottle Adam had used earlier in the day. Stanley died that very day, and Teresa died 2 days later. Over the next few days, 3 more strange deaths occurred. 35-year-old Mary McFarland of Elmhurst, Illinois, 35-year-old Paula Prince of Chicago, and 27-year-old Mary Weiner of Winfield, Illinois. All of them, it turned out, took Tylenol shortly before they died. It was at this point, early October of 1982, that investigators made the connection between the mysterious deaths and Tylenol, the best-selling non-prescription pain reliever sold in the United States at that time. Because unfortunately, each victim swallowed a Tylenol capsule laced with a lethal dose of cyanide. So McNeil Consumer Products, which is a part of Johnson & Johnson and manufactured Tylenol, issued a mass warning and immediately called for the massive recall of more than 31 million bottles of Tylenol that were currently in circulation. The case continued to be confusing to police, the drug maker, and the public at large. For example, Johnson & Johnson quickly established that the cyanide lacing occurred after cases of Tylenol left the factory. The bottles that had been tampered with all came from different factories, yet the victims were all within the Chicago area. This meant that the tampering had not occurred at the production level or within the factories, but rather within the store themselves. Police hypothesized that someone must have taken the bottles off the shelves of local grocery stores or drugstores within the Chicago area, laced the capsules with poison at home, and then returned those packages to the shelves, which would be purchased by unknowing victims. As the investigation began, Johnson & Johnson received several letters from someone named James William Lewis, who claimed that he was the one who tampered with the capsules and demanded $1 million to stop. He was identified by a fingerprint, but because he and his wife lived in New York at that time and he had no ties to Chicago, police did not find did not find any credible evidence to suggest that Lewis was the one who actually did it. He was, however, arrested for extortion and served 13 years in prison. Other suspects arose over the time, but police were never able to tie any of them to the Tylenol murders. Working with the FDA, Johnson & Johnson introduced a new tamper-proof packaging, which included foil seals and other features that made it obvious to consumer if anything had been tampered with. These packaging protections soon became the industry standard for all over-the-counter medications. The company also introduced price reductions in a new version of the pills called the caplet, a tablet coated with a slick, easy-to-swallow gelatin that made it a lot harder to be tampered with than the older capsules, which could easily be opened and laced with something and then placed back on the counter. In 1983, the U.S. Congress passed what was called the Tylenol Bill, making it a federal offense to tamper with consumer products. In 1989, the FDA established federal guidelines for manufacturers to make all such products tamper-proof. While sadly the tragedies that resulted from the Tylenol murders could never be undone, their deaths did inspire a lot of important moves to make sure that over-the-counter medications were safer. This is why recently, I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was an incident where a girl opened a tub of Bluebell ice cream, licked it, and then put it back. She had posted a video about it, so a lot of people knew, and so she was actually arrested. And this is why this is such a big deal. Like, I know people were saying, oh, it's not a big deal, all she did was lick it. But that just kind of introduced an idea that these could be opened and tampered with. And so there was a lot of things that came in after that, where Bluebell started doing plastic seals around the edges. And this is a story of why so many things had to change within that, like, because of that. And so this is just a very sad story of what, because unfortunately nobody was ever caught. Like they said, there was multiple people that they had suspected, but nobody could ever be actually charged with anything. So, like I said, a lot of people have heard this story, but I wanted a lot of more people. So if this is something you've heard before, or if there's any other stories you want me to cover, please let us know. Leave us any reviews. Tell me if I'm doing something completely wrong or something you completely hate. Again, I'm trying to make it a lot more casual, because I feel like before I was just very uptight and just reading stories. So I want to kind of lay back a little bit and make this a more casual setting for you guys to listen to. But thanks again for tuning in and listening to this week's morning coffee episode. I hope you guys really like it. Bye, guys.